In today's world, it's almost impossible to escape the constant noise around us. From the constant rush of relationships to the overwhelming pressure to conform to societal expectations, men are increasingly distracted, emotionally dependent, and often lost in the chaos. But what if the true path to strength and clarity lies not in the noise, but in the silence? The power of solitude is something many men overlook, yet it holds a unique potential that can transform a man from someone seeking external validation to a man of inner peace and true self-sufficiency. Through the lens of Stoicism, we learn that solitude isn't something to fear or avoid. It's an opportunity, one that allows a man to step back, reflect, and grow. When a man embraces solitude, he's not running away from life, but choosing to face it with greater clarity. The longer a man stays single, the more he learns to rely on his own inner strength. He becomes more in tune with his own needs, values, and goals, unshackled by the distractions of emotional dependency or the pressure to fit into a predefined role. In fact, the more time a man spends alone, the more stoic he becomes, growing in resilience, wisdom, and the understanding that true peace comes from within. If this resonates with you and you're ready to explore how Stoic principles can reshape your approach to life and relationships, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. Stay tuned for deeper insights into how embracing solitude can empower you to become the man you are meant to be. As we dive deeper into the power of solitude, it's important to understand the foundation of Stoic strength. Stoicism, at its core, teaches us to focus on what we can control, our actions, thoughts, and responses, while accepting what we cannot control, like the events and circumstances that occur around us. The Stoics emphasized three main principles: control over our emotions, the acceptance of fate, and the pursuit of virtue above all else, including external validation. In a world that constantly pressures us to seek approval from others, the Stoic philosophy encourages us to look inward, relying on our own values and beliefs to define who we are. One of the key aspects of Stoicism is the value of solitude. It's not about avoiding people or shutting ourselves off from the world. It's about creating space to confront our inner struggles without distractions. When we're alone, we can reflect deeply, work through challenges, and make better decisions, without the noise of others clouding our judgment. Solitude gives us the time and clarity needed to align our actions with our values and stay true to what we believe in. In Stoic terms, solitude isn't a form of isolation. It's a method of strengthening the mind and spirit. In today's society, we often believe that happiness comes from being around others or from external sources like relationships, social media validation, or material success. We've become dependent on others for emotional fulfillment and approval, making it easy to lose touch with our own sense of self. Stoicism, however, teaches the opposite. It encourages independence and self-sufficiency. The Stoic ideal is not to depend on others for happiness, but to find contentment within ourselves, regardless of what's going on around us. By embracing solitude, we learn to stand firm in our beliefs, free from the need for external validation or constant companionship. Throughout history, some of the greatest Stoic philosophers, like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, spoke about the importance of inner strength and self-reliance. Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor, often reminded himself that the key to peace was to focus on what he could control, his own thoughts and actions, rather than being swayed by external events. Seneca, too, emphasized the value of self-reflection and personal growth, suggesting that a man's happiness depends not on what happens to him, but on how he responds to it. Epictetus, who was born into slavery, famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." These Stoic thinkers understood that true strength comes from within, and they advocated for cultivating a mindset that remains unaffected by the uncontrollable aspects of life. The journey towards Stoic strength is not always easy. especially when we begin to face the discomfort of being alone. It can be unsettling at first, as our minds are filled with distractions, fears, and doubts. But this initial discomfort is where the real work begins. Just as a Stoic would face trials head-on. To build mental resilience, being alone challenges us to confront our internal struggles and grow stronger. Over time, solitude becomes a practice, much like any other Stoic discipline. It teaches us patience, emotional control, and how to find peace within ourselves, even when the world around us is in chaos. The longer we spend alone, the more we begin to understand ourselves on a deeper level. We develop a sense of emotional resilience, learning to weather life's storms without depending on others for support or validation. This process of embracing solitude, despite its initial discomfort, ultimately leads to greater mental and emotional strength. Through the Stoic lens, it's not about avoiding the pain of being alone. It's about using that time to build a stronger, more resilient self, one that is no longer swayed by external circumstances or the need for approval. Instead, we begin to find fulfillment within ourselves. Embracing solitude is a powerful tool for personal growth and lasting inner peace. As we continue to explore the power of solitude, it becomes clear that time alone isn't just about being by yourself. It's about sharpening your focus and cultivating a deeper understanding of who you are. Stoic practices, such as meditation and journaling, can be powerful tools in this journey. By taking the time to reflect and examine our thoughts and emotions, we gain clarity and insight into what truly matters to us. Meditation allows us to quiet the noise of the outside world, helping us reconnect with our inner selves, while journaling provides a space for self-expression and critical thinking. These practices help us cut through the clutter of daily life, guiding us toward a more intentional and focused existence. When a man is in a relationship, it's easy to become distracted, pulled in multiple directions by the needs and expectations of others. But when a man is single, he has the freedom to focus entirely on his mission, his passions, and his life goals. There are no external distractions demanding his attention, which allows him to dig deeper into the work that matters most to him. This time alone gives him the space to ask himself difficult questions, reassess his priorities, and make decisions based on his values rather than the expectations of others. In many ways, solitude provides the opportunity to create a clear path forward, one that is driven by purpose and self-determination. In addition to sharpening focus, solitude also offers the chance to build a stronger relationship with oneself. In modern society, we are often taught to seek validation from others, to base our self-worth on how others see us. But the Stoic approach is different. A Stoic doesn't rely on external approval for self-worth. Instead, a man who spends time alone learns to validate himself. He understands that his value comes from his actions, his integrity, and his character, not from being in a relationship or meeting society's standards. This self-validation is liberating, as it removes the need for constant approval and allows him to live authentically, without fear of judgment. One of the central ideas of Stoicism is the concept of virtue as its own reward. In today's world, many people chase after external rewards, money, status, relationships as measures of success and happiness. But for the Stoic, the pursuit of virtue, personal integrity, discipline, and purpose is the ultimate goal. Working on these qualities, regardless of external circumstances, brings lasting fulfillment. It's not about what we gain from others, but about what we give to ourselves through our actions. When a man focuses on building his own character, he discovers a deeper sense of fulfillment that doesn't depend on external validation or temporary pleasures. However, in modern society, there is often a pressure to seek relationships as a measure of success. Society tells us that a man must be in a relationship to feel complete, that his worth is defined by his connections with others. This pressure can lead men to prioritize relationships over their own personal growth, causing them to lose sight of their own purpose. But the Stoic man understands that his worth is not defined by his relationship status. He knows that his value lies in his ability to act according to his principles, to be disciplined, to pursue virtue, and to remain true to himself. In this sense, solitude becomes a tool for personal growth rather than a lonely or isolating experience. Real-life example that demonstrates the transformative power of solitude can be seen in the life of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. Born into slavery, Epictetus had few external comforts or relationships to rely on. Yet, despite these challenges, he became one of the most influential Stoic thinkers. His teachings emphasize the importance of self-mastery and inner freedom, which he achieved through solitude and introspection. Epictetus spent much of his time reflecting on his thoughts, controlling his impulses, and focusing on what was within his power to change. In doing so, he not only found inner peace but also became a source of wisdom for others. His life is a testament to the idea that solitude can be a powerful period of growth, allowing a person to cultivate a deep sense of self-mastery and resilience. In today's world, it's easy to get caught up in the noise of modern life and lose sight of our own path. But by embracing solitude, a man can step away from the distractions and pressures of the outside world and begin to focus on what truly matters: his own growth, his mission, and his purpose. Solitude sharpens his focus, allows him to validate himself, and helps him pursue virtue as its own reward. The Stoic man doesn't need relationships to feel whole. Instead, he builds a life rooted in self-mastery, integrity, and fulfillment, knowing that true happiness comes from within, not from the approval or validation of others. Through solitude, he gains the strength to face life's challenges with confidence and resilience, becoming the best version of himself. Emotional control is at the core of Stoic philosophy, and it's seen as a key to true strength. In the Stoic view, a man should never allow himself to be ruled by his emotions, especially those that arise from relationships or societal pressures. Emotions, while natural, are not meant to control us. Instead, the Stoic teaches that we must control our reactions to those emotions. This means not allowing the highs and lows of relationships or the constant ebb and flow of social expectations to dictate our sense of self-worth or happiness. When a man masters this control, he becomes less susceptible to emotional turmoil, making him more resilient in the face of life's challenges. One of the most powerful lessons in Stoicism is the concept of detachment. By detaching ourselves from emotional dependencies, such as those often found in relationships, a man gains emotional freedom. Relationships, especially in today's world, can be a breeding ground for emotional manipulation and chaos. In modern dating, it's easy to get caught up in the emotional roller coaster of expectation, jealousy, and neediness. However, by practicing detachment, a Stoic man learns to maintain his peace and independence, unaffected by the emotional dramas that might otherwise arise. This detachment doesn't mean rejecting love or companionship, but rather not allowing our emotional state to be controlled by the presence or absence of someone else in our lives. The benefits of mastering one's emotions are profound. A man who has spent time alone, reflecting on his thoughts and building emotional strength, becomes more resilient. He develops the ability to face difficult situations without being swept away by emotions. In relationships, this emotional fortitude makes him less vulnerable to manipulation or emotional gains. He is no longer easily rattled by things outside of his control. In essence, emotional independence creates a sense of invulnerability to external turmoil, giving him a calm and composed demeanor, regardless of the chaos that may surround him. The Stoics often emphasize the importance of this mental fortitude, understanding that those who can control their emotions are the ones who live with true peace. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic philosophers, taught that we have the power to choose how we respond to external events. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This simple yet profound idea underscores the Stoic belief that we cannot control external circumstances, but we can control our internal reactions. By adopting this mindset, a man learns to approach life's challenges with calmness and clarity, no longer overwhelmed by his emotional responses. Instead of being a slave to his emotions, he becomes their master. Comparing emotional attachment in relationships to the Stoic principle of maintaining inner peace offers a stark contrast. In modern society, we are often taught that emotional attachment is a sign of love and connection, and that relationships should bring happiness and fulfillment. While love is a beautiful thing, emotional attachment can easily turn into dependency, and that dependency can lead to chaos. When our happiness is tied to someone else's actions or approval, we place ourselves in a vulnerable position. Our emotions become like a pendulum, swinging from joy to sorrow based on the state of the relationship. On the other hand, the Stoic principle encourages maintaining inner peace, regardless of what's happening externally. The Stoic man understands that his emotional well-being comes from within, not from external validation or the approval of others. His peace is not shaken by the ups and downs of relationships, because he knows how to regulate his emotions and find stability in himself. To develop emotional independence, the Stoic suggests practical steps such as self-reflection, journaling, and meditation. These tools help a man understand his emotions, examine his reactions, and make intentional choices about how to respond to life's challenges. Journaling, for example, allows him to record his thoughts and reflect on his emotional responses. This helps him gain perspective and see patterns in his behavior, allowing him to make conscious changes where needed. Meditation helps quiet the mind, fostering a deeper awareness of his inner state and allowing him to detach from emotional triggers. By incorporating these practices into his daily life, a man can gradually build emotional strength and independence, becoming less reactive and more resilient in the face of life's difficulties. In summary, emotional independence is one of the greatest gifts a man can give himself. By practicing Stoic teachings, he learns to control his emotions, detach from unnecessary dependencies, and cultivate inner peace. This emotional resilience makes him invulnerable to manipulation and chaos, allowing him to live with a sense of calm and clarity. The Stoic man doesn't let external circumstances or relationships dictate his emotional state. Instead, he takes charge of his own emotional world, using self-reflection, journaling, and meditation to build a stronger, more balanced self. Through these practices, he finds true emotional freedom, an essential component of living a meaningful Stoic life. The longer a man stays without a relationship, the more clarity and focus he can develop. In solitude, distractions are minimized, allowing a man to hone in on what truly matters. This mirrors a core Stoic principle: focus on what is within one's control and let go of what is outside of it. When a man isn't caught up in the emotional whirlwinds of a relationship, he can dedicate more time and energy to his own growth. Whether it's his career, physical health, or intellectual pursuits, solitude gives him the mental space to sharpen his focus and clarify his priorities. Relationships, while they can offer companionship and support, also bring emotional complexities and distractions. Without these distractions, a man is free to build a stronger, more defined version of himself. The Stoic way of thinking emphasizes fulfilling one's duty and mission, and this same mindset can be applied to a man's personal growth. Just as Stoics focus on improving themselves in every area of life, whether it be in character, actions, or thoughts, a single man can take this opportunity to refine his focus and dedicate himself to meaningful goals. Whether he's pushing forward in his career, prioritizing his health, or expanding his knowledge, the absence of a relationship allows him to direct all of his energy towards building the life he truly wants. This is not about avoiding relationships, but about understanding that, in periods of solitude, a man can push himself to new heights without the pull of external demands and distractions. Relationships, especially those that are driven by emotional highs or the need for validation, often pull us away from our true purpose. The chase for fleeting pleasures, such as the excitement of a new relationship or the rush of emotional highs, can easily distract a man from his deeper goals. The Stoics taught that chasing after temporary desires is ultimately fruitless, leading only to more desires and more distractions. True fulfillment, they believed, comes from dedicating oneself to virtue, duty, and the pursuit of a meaningful life, not from seeking external validation or pleasure. By avoiding the distractions of superficial connections, a man can stay focused on his path toward personal growth and fulfillment. Modern society bombards men with countless distractions: social media, societal expectations, and casual dating. All pull attention away from meaningful self-improvement. It's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of attention or approval from others, especially when technology makes it so easy to connect. The constant notifications, the pressure to keep up with the latest trends, and the temptation of casual relationships can all serve as roadblocks to a man's progress. However, solitude, when embraced, allows a man to step away from these distractions and focus solely on what matters. In solitude, a man can cut through the noise and focus on what will truly help him grow, whether it's mastering a new skill, reading deeply, or working towards his long-term goals. When a man redirects his energy towards his own personal growth, the results are often profound. He becomes more productive and effective in everything he does. The more he invests in himself, the more powerful his impact on the world becomes. This aligns with the Stoic notion of living in accordance with nature, striving for eudaimonia, or flourishing. The Stoics believed that true happiness and fulfillment come from living a life of purpose, where one's actions align with their values and higher goals. A man who is single, free from the distractions of relationships, has the opportunity to create and live that life. The clarity and focus gained from solitude can lead to deeper productivity, more meaningful accomplishments, and a stronger sense of self. To maintain this focus, Stoic practices can offer valuable guidance. Time management, for example, is crucial to ensuring that each day is spent meaningfully. By carefully planning his time and sticking to a routine, a man can avoid wasting energy on trivial pursuits. The Stoics were known for their disciplined approach to life, where every action had a purpose and every moment was lived intentionally. A daily routine that includes self-reflection, goal setting, and prioritization can help maintain a steady course toward personal growth. Eliminating distractions is also key. This could mean reducing time spent on social media, avoiding unnecessary drama, or setting clear boundaries around how much time is spent in casual relationships or social engagements. In essence, solitude offers the space to sharpen focus, redirect energy toward purpose, and build a life of greater productivity. And covers the space to sharpen focus, meaning a man who stays single for an extended period has the chance to refine his mission and build a strong foundation for his future. By embracing Stoic principles and rejecting fleeting distractions, he can achieve a life of true fulfillment, driven by a deep sense of purpose and an unwavering commitment to personal growth. In this way, solitude doesn't represent loneliness or stagnation. It represents an opportunity for strength, focus, and flourishing. True freedom, in the Stoic sense, emerges from solitude. When a man learns to rely on himself, both emotionally and mentally, he begins to experience a kind of freedom that few people ever achieve. A man who is emotionally independent and self-reliant no longer needs to seek approval from others or be dependent on relationships for his happiness. He has learned the value of self-sufficiency, the idea that he can control his responses, his thoughts, and his actions without needing external validation. This inner freedom is a core Stoic principle, one that leads to peace, clarity, and the ability to live according to one's true nature. A man who embraces this freedom is not bound by the chaos of external expectations or the emotional turbulence that often accompanies relationships. Society, however, conditions men to believe that relationships are essential to their identity and worth. From a young age, many are taught that having a partner is the ultimate sign of success, happiness, and fulfillment. The pressure to seek relationships and validate oneself through them can feel overwhelming, yet the Stoic man understands that this external pursuit is not the path to true freedom. Instead of conforming to societal expectations, he takes the path of self-discovery and self-reliance. He knows that his worth is not defined by his relationship status or what others think of him, but by his actions, his character, and the way he lives his life on his own terms. This understanding gives him the power to break free from the societal pressures that often lead others to chase fleeting pleasures and emotional dependencies. One of the most powerful aspects of being single for an extended period is that a man's life becomes fully his own. Without the compromises and responsibilities that come with a relationship, he has control over his time, energy, and decisions. He can choose how to spend his day, who to spend it with, and what goals to pursue. This autonomy allows him to live authentically, without constantly adjusting to fit the needs or expectations of someone else. In relationships, compromises are often necessary, whether it's adjusting to a partner's schedule, desires, or emotional needs. But when a man is alone, he is free from these compromises, able to focus entirely on his own growth and ambitions. His life is entirely in his hands, and this sense of ownership is a profound aspect of the Stoic understanding of freedom. Solitude plays a crucial role in achieving personal mastery. When a man spends time alone, reflecting on his thoughts and actions, he gains a deeper understanding of who he truly is. Stoic principles encourage deep self-reflection, which helps strip away the distractions and labels that society places on individuals. In the solitude of his own mind, a man can confront his weaknesses, evaluate his goals, and make adjustments without the influence of outside opinions. This period of self-reflection is where true growth occurs. It's in solitude that a man can shed the expectations that others have for him and begin to live according to his own values and principles. By embracing this inner journey, he evolves beyond the limited scope that society often imposes, discovering a deeper sense of purpose and meaning. The Stoic man, unburdened by the distractions of relationships or societal pressures, is in the ideal position to strive for excellence. He has the time, energy, and mental clarity to dedicate himself fully to his personal development. Each day becomes an opportunity to improve, to push the boundaries of what he can achieve, and to build a life of purpose and integrity. This pursuit of excellence is not driven by the desire for external recognition, but by an inner drive to become the best version of himself. The Stoic path is one of continuous growth, where the focus is always on self-improvement, virtue, and mastery. A man who is free from emotional distractions and external expectations can dedicate himself to this path wholeheartedly, building a legacy that is truly his own. In this way, solitude doesn't represent a loss or absence, but rather a space for creation and transformation. The longer a man remains free from the demands of relationships, the more he can focus on building a life that reflects his deepest values and aspirations. By choosing this path of self-reliance and inner freedom, he not only transforms his own life but becomes an example for others. The Stoic man shows that true freedom comes from within, from the ability to master oneself, make decisions independently, and live according to one's own truth, regardless of what society might expect or demand. This kind of freedom is not only liberating but also incredibly empowering, offering a sense of peace and fulfillment that few ever truly experience. The longer a man stays single, the more he naturally aligns with the core principles of Stoicism: self-sufficiency, emotional control, clarity of purpose, and ultimately, true freedom. By embracing solitude, he frees himself from the distractions and emotional dependencies that often arise from relationships, allowing him to focus on what truly matters: his personal growth and development. In solitude, he learns to master his emotions, sharpen his focus, and find a sense of purpose that is not reliant on external validation or societal expectations. Through time alone, he becomes stronger, more resilient, and more in control of his life. Embracing solitude, even when it feels uncomfortable, leads to a profound transformation. It's in these moments of stillness that a man can redefine his path and gain clarity on who he truly is. By stepping away from the noise of the world and the pressures of relationships, he can become the man who defines his own life and purpose. It's a powerful shift, one that makes him more independent and more connected to his true self. If you're watching this, take a moment to reflect on your own life. Consider how embracing Stoic principles focusing on self-reliance, emotional independence, and a clear sense of purpose can help you lead a more meaningful and empowered existence. If you're ready to explore more on how Stoicism can shape your life, be sure to subscribe for more insights into personal development and living a more fulfilling life.